Voice. Same voice.
Yep, same voice. Ryan Hansen. How are you, brother?
Good, man. Good.
I really appreciate you inviting me to your loft.
Yeah.
It's a very nice space down here.
Thanks for coming. Thank you.
My first question, whenever I saw you, I was going to ask you, like, why is your gym so far away from where you live?
That's a good, everybody asks that.
I know, but you actually already answered it. I don't know if you realized that. You said you used to live in West County. So,
Well, the whole thing was
yeah, tell me about it.
I used to work for Club Fitness. So I'm a city kid. I'm from Brooklyn. So I really thrive and I feel most comfortable in the city. I used to work for Club Fitness, and I was living in the city, working at the one in University City, which is close by. Then I moved out to Lifetime Fitness in West County, but I was still living in the city. And then I had, that 35, 40-minute commute. So then I moved out to the county and worked at Lifetime, opened up my own gym a couple of years ago, and all my clients were already out there, but I just missed the city. Like, my heart is here. So I decided to move back downtown, and I had everything set up there. So my gym is already there. So I just kind of make the drive. But
Yeah.
West County, I mean, I don't know who your listeners are, but West County, or even the county, let's say, and St. Louis City are two different worlds.
Oh, yeah.
It's like night and day. It's like literally two parts of the country. So I just do better in the city.
Right.
My clients are all out there.
So what brought you to St. Louis in the first place? Because let's backtrack a
Yeah,
little bit,
yeah.
right? 'Cause
So
you're from
from
Brooklyn.
I was born in Brooklyn. Then I went to Westchester. Moved to Westchester probably when I was like 12 or 13. Went to school in the city, and then moved here in 2009, 2010 when the market collapsed. Like 2008, the housing market collapsed and everything melted, and nobody could get a job in New York City. So my mother is a corporate executive. She got recruited by Wachovia, which later became Wells Fargo. So she said, hey, come out to St. Louis, because nobody in my graduating class could even get a job at that time. Like 2009, when I graduated college, everything was just wiped.
Yeah.
I went to school for business and entrepreneurship. My roommate went for finance. My other roommate went for finance, and we could not they wanted to be at like big firms, but there was nothing. It was all just evaporated. So she said, come out to St. Louis. I'll get you a job at Wells Fargo. Well, actually, it was Wachovia at the time, and this was in 2010. Came out here, did that, like much like your story, corporate, did it for, I lasted probably about a month.
It's brutal, man.
I mean, it lasted about a month. It's not for me.
No,
like,
not for me either.
I know it sounds like, the thing to say, like, oh, like 9 to 5, rat race, all that. Like, some people do really well in that environment, and they like that, the structure and all that. I joke that I'm unemployable in a sense. Like, I just don't do well with bosses and all that. I have my own way of doing things. So I lasted about a month, and then I got a job at Club Fitness because I always was into fitness and wellness and working out, mostly bodybuilding at first, and then it's kind of evolved and morphed into what I do today. But since 12 years old, I've been in gyms. My first job ever was actually cleaning locker room. I probably had like 16, cleaning locker rooms for a local gym in New York, and for like a membership, and then $6 an hour, whatever it was.
Nice. Was it a pretty big adjustment coming to Missouri?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody I meet, even to this day, when I tell them I'm from New York, they're like, why would you come to St. Louis? And it was definitely a culture shock.
Yeah.
People in the city that I met were like, oh, they thought, I mean, in their perspective, it was like they were living in the big city. But like, this to me is like an anthill,
Yeah.
compared to living in New York City.
Oh, for sure.
So as far as adjustments, it was definitely like, I would say the people here, obviously they're a little bit more laid back, not as high strung and crazy as they are in New York City. But good Midwestern people. Cost of living is super low. That was a shock.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going out to bars and just going out in the city in New York, and it'd be $16 for a drink. You go out to dinner, it's like $35 for an entree.
Right.
And you come here, and it's like $6, $4 for a drink, and whatever. 15, 17 for an entree. So it was totally different. Cost of living, housing was so low compared to New York. You could live like a king for like 50 grand here, which was pretty cool. And I just think it's a little bit. The one thing I'll say about St. Louis, it's a little bit more like there's not as much like diversity. In New York, there's so many different types of people: white, black, Jewish, Puerto Rican, Chinese. In St. Louis, there's like 2 or 3 races, and everybody kind of just stays in their lane.
Yeah.
I wish there was more diversity and more like everybody was kind of like inclusive. I found coming from an outside state that everybody kind of had their own clique already, like the whole age-old question of like, what high school did you go to?
I fucking hate that question,
Yeah,
bro.
so
It's so weird.
I've still to this day have had a hard time like having a set group, because people that I met, they, you know, I would hang out with them, but they still hung out with the same people they went to high school with.
Yeah.
And it was just different for a kid from New York to come in, and like it just was very cliquey.
Yeah.
So even to this day, it's still the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really unfortunate thing about the area. I tell that to people, and so I was in San Francisco a couple weekends ago, and I was telling that to somebody, and I don't think it really like made sense to them, like me saying that.
Yeah, no. And unless you're here, you don't really know what that feels like. It's funny. I was at Trader Joe's yesterday, and they had one of those like to-go bags, and on the to-go bag it said, what high school did you go to? It was like a St. Louis themed to-go bag.
Yeah.
Trader Joe's branded bag with that saying on it. I'm like, dude,
Fuck,
that's
dude.
pretty crazy that
Yeah.
like Trader Joe's is printing bags in St. Louis for their stores that say that on the bag. Right.
Dude, that blows me away.
I know. I was actually, my girlfriend just moved here, and I was like, hey, that's actually a St. Louis. And I was explaining the whole thing and situation. Like, that's a very like cliche thing that St. Louis has, is people that you go to high school and you stay with those people. Plus, they ask you about that because it reveals a lot about who you are, your religious background, economic background, who you hung out with. Like, you can tell a lot from somebody
They
by
sum
their
up
high school, I
everything in that
guess,
one
in that one question.
Yeah.
But on the flip side to that is people that went to high school with are probably the people you hang out with to this day.
Yeah, you do see that a lot. It can be a challenge trying to break into those circles.
Whereas in New York, everybody is just like, you know, on the move. You just always connected with new people. There's people moving in, moving out. There's a lot of people that are like from New York, but there's a lot of people that are just from other parts of the world that want to come to, like, you know, make it big or whatever. So
Yeah,
that's
for
cool.
sure.
That's really cool.
Yeah, dude. And so I've been doing quite a bit of traveling this year. Like, I've just made a point to where, so like we were talking beforehand, like I had my son whenever I was 20, had my daughter whenever I was 22. I got married whenever I was
So you were like
21.
you were an adult really early on.
Super early, you know what I mean? Like, never like not had responsibility. For some reason, so backtracking to the Midwest and just this whole conservative mindset and this very, linear way of thinking, it was always, fucking go to school, you get your degree, you get that corporate job, you find the wife. When are you gonna settle down and start having a family and having kids? I'm just like, I'm fucking on the ball, dude. I'm 21. I'm doing it all. Like,
I'm winning.
I'm fucking winning, dude. Yeah, like a fucking idiot.
That's funny because I feel like there's more pressure in the Midwest, I'll say, to do that than there is in New York. People in New York and maybe even like the East Coast, even the West Coast, you do that stuff later on.
Yeah.
You kind of like find yourself, you get your career, you kind of like figure yourself out, and then like late 20s, even like mid 30s, that's when but I feel like when I came here, I was really taken back by how many people were already married, had kids, and all that. When I came here, I was 22. At 22.
Yeah, dude, I was one of those people.
You're one of those people, yeah.
So like having like traveled around, and it's just so nice to go to see. Like, I've been to Austin. We talked about Austin a little bit. Like, you go places like there, and like I stick out in a place like this. Like, I'm a bit of a weird person, which is totally fine with me. But like, you go to other places and you don't.
Like,
I just
blend right in.
Yeah, dude, I just feel just so normal. Like, I don't feel weird.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. But it just is what it is, man. You take it. It is what it is. So. You were studying business, so you never saw yourself kind of doing the health and fitness path, right?
Is there more to that question? Sorry,
Well, I mean, sometimes I don't really ask questions. I just make statements
prompt
into
it.
a question.
Yeah.
But
so I would say I always was like creative and into business, more like the entrepreneurial stuff. And I think that because I always, like I said, worked out since I was 12 years old, I figured it was going to be something in the fitness space.
Okay.
Like, my final project for my entrepreneurship class was to design a gym and then talk about that.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I mean, like, I wasn't going to be like a businessman where like I was, for
You're not trading stocks.
yeah,
You're not
no,
fucking,
exactly. I
yeah.
wasn't in finance. I was in entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
and my entrepreneurship tendencies were more geared towards fitness, health, because that's what I've done forever. And as like I said, my final project was that. I never saw myself being a straight like suit and tie business person. I saw myself being a businessman because I wanted to create my own way, and that's really like how I like felt most comfortable. I thought I was going to actually open like in New York we have this thing called New York Sports Club, or like the equivalent here would be like a Lifetime. I thought I
Yeah.
was going to do like one of those things. Like that's like big business. I didn't know I
Yeah.
was going to open up like a studio and do small group training because at the time small group I wasn't even like looking at being a personal trainer. I just thought I was going to open a gym.
Yeah.
It
You just run it.
yeah, I
People
didn't
do
know.
it.
I didn't know. Like it wasn't until I came to St. Louis and was like, I love fitness. I love health. I've always worked out. Let me try to be a trainer. Because at the time in 2010, being a trainer wasn't all that cool. It was like an in-between job. It was like right now, everybody, at this point with Instagram, social media, everybody's a trainer. At that point, it was like I was actually looked down upon by probably my contemporaries in school because like I was going to be a personal trainer, which wasn't like a real career. It
Yeah.
was like something you did like in the meantime until you got a real job, or it was something that you had to do when like, you had no other options. Like it was like very typical like meathead type. Oh, you're going to be a personal trainer.
Really.
So at that point, like, yeah, it wasn't what it was today. And that was only 8, which is crazy. It was only 8 years ago. It shows you how like things change,
Yeah, dude, things change real fast,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the internet.
especially and also just in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of grew up and like I thought of like trainers as like, dude, you're a fucking trainer, dude. Like I thought like celebrity trainers.
That's funny.
That's the
Yeah.
first thing that always kind of came to mind from like I grew up in like the backwoods, like like
Okay.
roads. Like that was
Yeah.
like a big thing to me. But yeah, dude, I could definitely see from like your environment like why that would have like been frowned upon. It's like, dude, we're just gonna go work in a gym all
Yeah,
day.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
So the first job I ever had at 16, folding towels and cleaning the locker room. But at 16 years old, I looked at the trainers like they were like rock stars. They were like celebrities. Like, man, did they get to work out all day? Like
Yeah.
they get to train people. They have cool clients. They're doing all these crazy moves with their clients. Like to me, it was like I put it on a pedestal. When I got to college and all my friends were like taking like big jobs at like Merrill Lynch and Morgan Stanley and all
Right.
these things, like to be a trainer, that was like, dude, you're gonna be working a gym and wear sweatpants. Like, what about your like 3-piece suit and like your
Yeah.
cool briefcase? Like,
Yeah, dude, what are you talking about?
yeah, so it didn't really make sense at the time, and then now as it's kind of evolved, and I think I've been a trainer for this long because it's the only thing I've really been good at and I know how to do.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy it. I mean, just that connection with people
Mm-hmm.
and like helping people and seeing them get those results. It's just such a cool thing to be a
Yeah,
part
man,
of.
it's definitely something that you can both tangibly see their results, like, but also like their person, their being changes, which is really cool. And like it sounds very tired, but you literally change somebody's life.
Yeah, you really do. So, what's your fitness background? I mean, we kind of like alluded to it
Yeah.
a little bit, but like, what is kind of your journey with
So I
fitness?
started working out in a universal, like not a Bowflex, but like a pseudo Bowflex type of thing in my parents' basement at 12 years old. I was like writing down my workouts, doing push-ups, blasting 50 Cent at the time. Like I was so into it. I read Arnold's Encyclopedia.
Yeah,
I mean,
dude.
I think everybody starts
I think
there.
so.
I mean, that thing's like I remember getting it for Christmas and being
Bible.
like, I felt like I had like the Bible in my hands, like the Holy Grail, like all the knowledge was in this. And I remember watching Pumping Iron. So, like many people probably, I started out in more of a bodybuilding style of training. I did some strongman when I was in college. I entered a few competitions, which was cool. Then I got into a little bit of like CrossFit after college. It wasn't like dropping in the CrossFit classes, but I was getting acquainted with like the movements. And I was going to other gyms and learning. That style didn't really sit well with me, but I would say I've always worked out since, I'm 31 now. So for the past 19 years, started at bodybuilding, went to strongman, CrossFit, and then now it's more like functional, like
Yeah.
holistic, kind of like, I would say like a lot of body weight, still general strength. Like my heart will always be in like athletics in terms of like general strength and conditioning work, like heavy deadlifts, heavy squats, like all that kind of stuff, with now layered on top of like mobility and body weight stuff, and flexibility, even like some yoga.
Yeah, just geared much more towards like sustainable training and like longevity,
I
right?
just don't want to get hurt. Like the
Oh,
one
dude.
thing in fitness, you see a lot of people just getting screwed up. Like they
Oh,
have no
yeah.
business in doing a lot of these exercises. And I don't want to be somebody who's 35, 40 years old and, broken knees, broken back, and then not have the whole long term. I want to be able to do this stuff until I'm 80 and 90. I don't want to like burn out at 30 because I killed myself, or 40 because I was doing
Oh,
things
yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do it forever. Like Jack LaLanne's a big inspiration to me. Like dude was like 90 years old and still doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, dude. Have you seen that recent documentary with Ronnie
Coleman?
Coleman? Yeah, dude. Dude.
I was talking about that the other day. It's funny you mentioned that. I was talking about that the other day, and he was somebody I remember watching on YouTube and being just like blown away by what this guy can do. But even something at that time, even though I wasn't like well versed in fitness, something in my mind said to me like, this is going to be a problem, because like there's no way your body can withstand 700-pound
It's a lot of weight,
squats,
man.
800, and then his form was just god awful. But he was a monster, and like. I remember watching that documentary and being like, I kind of knew this was going to happen. It was sad to see. Like, he was literally like a cripple. I mean,
Yeah.
he looked normal sitting down. Like, during the interview, he was fine. Like, still in shape, still had veins popping out everywhere.
He's still lifting.
But the way it was almost like seeing like those, you ever see like those kids that can't walk, like on like those,
Yeah.
it looked like something like that.
His hips are just all shot to hell,
And
dude.
he's had so many surgeries. He's still he's probably in his 40s or 50s at this point. He still has a long life to live, and he can't even, he's incapacitated.
Yeah. I don't know how old he is, but yeah, he's put himself in a hard situation.
And I think I read an article about that, and he said if he would do it all over again, he'd do it again.
Yeah. Well, what kind of got me was he's still doing the same shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like he's doing really well with his
Right,
business.
but he's still working out, doing that shit.
Yeah, like he was doing fucking leg sled and
I
stuff like
know,
that. Like,
I
there's just so
know.
many other things you could be doing.
I
Man.
think what happens is,
it is-
like as you get older and you kind of get like he's so ingrained into bodybuilding, like that's such a part of his being. It just wouldn't make sense for him
to train any
to
other
train
way.
any other way. That's all
Yeah.
he's ever known. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think even there's like, I was joking about this to my girlfriend that like, there's like stereotypical generational ways that people train. Like you'll see the old guy at the gym doing like some random half rep, and he'll go around from like machine to machine. He's wearing like khakis and like New Balance shoes. Like there's
yeah,
that
dude.
stereotype,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then there's
He's
like
having more
the Ronnie
conversations.
Coleman, yeah. And there's like the Ronnie Coleman who's like, the guy with the weight belt on that's got a gut hanging out over his thing, and he's got like the wraps, and he's like,
Yep.
mid 50s doing like bodybuilding
Big
stuff.
barrel chest, big
Yeah,
arms.
like there's the generational, and I feel like even if I was to go up to these dudes and be like, "Yo, there's a better way. Let me show you something else," it wouldn't register. Like it wouldn't register.
No. And some of that is just ego.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I know what I'm doing,
Yeah,
bro. What
yeah,
are you talking about?
right,
You can't
right.
tell me shit. But, yeah, it's just not
It is.
sustainable.
I just have always kept an open mind. Like even though I grew up in the bodybuilding era with like guys like Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, and then seeing CrossFit and the evolution of that, I just always had an open mind. I was not somebody who was like, oh, this is like, I'm only going to do it this way. I was always curious. Like I remember going to a yoga class. Like this is probably 5 years ago now, for the first time, and getting my ass kicked. And I'm like, here I am deadlifting 500 pounds and being like, I can't even do a plank. Like that to me stood out as something that like, that's a problem. Like, let me explore that, not be like, oh, screw planks. Planks are stupid.
Right.
Those are for like old people that have back problems. Like it just was interesting to me that like, I thought I was in good shape, being able to be really strong, but I didn't have like the core stability or even like the core strength to do this stuff. So like, let me add that to my tool belt. I never like shunned things away. Like you'll see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like you'll see people just completely discredit other types of training and whatnot.
I'm always like, let me at least try it and see what happens. Versus
dude.
being like, oh, like that looks stupid. Like even with my training, people like write it off as like, oh, all he does is like crawl around the ground and like throw around some maces. Like it just, but like until you actually do it, you should not have any opinion about it because you don't know.
Yeah, man, and I take that kind of approach to just nutrition and health and wellness as as a whole, because fuck, dude, we're learning all the time,
Yeah.
and just the amount of information that's coming out now. I used to think like eating pancakes with peanut butter was like just great for like breakfast. You know what I mean? Just like bleach flour, just like the lowest fucking, the cheapest thing you could find. I'm like, yeah, dude, this is good breakfast. You know what I
And
mean?
you know what's still funny, dude? You can probably find somebody who believes that still.
Still.
And has a study that like, oh, but this study shows that you should have like that's what's so crazy about the fitness industry. Everybody has their own opinion, so it is hard to navigate through and be like, okay, what is true?
Yeah.
What do I know for a fact? Because like you said, there's so much information coming out there. One study contradicts the next study, which contradicts the next study, and it's like.
And that's by design, right? There's a lot of misinformation out there.
Yeah.
There's a
Keeps people
whole
confused.
generation that's been
Yeah.
lied to and they don't understand, So they are skeptical whenever you start telling them about different ways of doing things.
Right.
And the health industry, the fitness industry of yesterday wasn't geared towards like longevity or sustainability. It wasn't about that. It was just about just like aesthetics and looking good. And a lot of people don't even understand, like, you can be normal body weight but metabolically obese. So you may look okay,
I love that.
yeah, that's an actual medical term, dude. Metabolically
Wow.
obese. So you're a fucking 400-pound diabetic on the inside, but you're ripped as shit. If it fits your macros, cool. But dude,
But what's going on?
What's
It's
going
like
on the inside?
Under the hood.
Yeah,
right?
dude.
Like,
And that's what people don't understand, dude. So I had a point to that, but I do know what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
So having been in entrepreneurship and like I listen to Andy's podcast a lot, and like having gone to school, like I have this very like I'm just like, dude, I feel like I wasted a lot of time having gone to school. I do a lot of self-education reading and whatnot, and do you feel like going to school for entrepreneurship was very helpful for you?
I think it's I think it's probably that's a personal. It goes by the person. So
Right.
for me,
You learned some good business practice.
I did, and I also had something that is not quantifiable, which is I had confidence in myself that so at my graduation, my entrepreneurship teacher pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Ryan, like you have something here. You need to go and do something." Like she made a point to really like kind of like give me a little pep talk. I'll never forget this at my graduation, like at the ceremony. And I was like, because I was somebody who like kind of believed in myself, but just that little bump is something that still to this day has stuck with me. I don't think I really like learned anything that I could take. Like I'm not like recalling, entrepreneurship 101 classes today, but I do think that the being in that environment, being with that teacher, yeah, entrepreneurship is, I don't know, it's a weird question because like entrepreneurship is so like the Wild West and school is so like systematized and like it's test and like you become a student and you become a student of the game versus somebody who's like a player of the game.
Right.
So I think that you can.
It's a tough one because for me, like
Yeah.
I don't necessarily feel like my master's was very much help. I got my master's in healthcare administration,
Right.
and like that was cool for a little bit. But you tell people that, and they're like, "Well, why aren't you working at a hospital?" Well, it's fucking hard as hell to get a job at a hospital, and especially in an administrative position.
Yeah.
And then I'm not happy in that environment. So, but a business administration degree, like it wasn't the worst thing in the world,
Right.
because you do get a lot of the basic principles of business, and you do learn like business speak and terminology, which is very useful. And I actually took entrepreneurship classes. I was the president of my entrepreneurship club in Lindenwood. So like we had so many different entrepreneurs come in and like speak to us and just recommend books and different things, which was kind of cool hearing their stories.
Yeah.
But on that same note,
I think education is a great tool across the board. So whether you go to school or whether you go, it depends on the person, like how their learning style, whether you're reading books, whether you're going to courses. I believe that life should be like you should have a lifelong education. Like that's what you should be learning along the way,
always,
no matter what.
never stop
So
learning.
I don't think there's nothing, to me, there's nothing wrong with going to school because you're still learning, whether it's in a book or whether it's from a teacher or whether it's on your own. I just get weary of people going to school and becoming students and not actually somebody who's in the on the field playing the game.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to learn the most, and that's true. Like you can't play business. Like you can't play on. Like you got to be in it, and you're not just like some fake like, oh, here's my PowerPoint presentation on like my business plan. Like real businesses to me don't. operate in that way.
Right.
They operate very like almost like entrepreneurship to me is like very like rogue.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, and a lot of it's theory in school, and then also
Yeah.
you're always being graded, right? So it always has to be perfect. But in fucking business, dude,
Dude, it's messy.
it's never perfect.
It's super messy.
If you think about some of the stuff that you put out, like what grade would you have gotten in school? You know, like in real business, like
yeah.
dude, like that's probably like C work, but I gotta fucking put it out, dude.
Right.
Like I gotta do something.
You got to do something.
You know,
yeah.
what I- so
and that's the thing. Like, and I think you have to be the judge and the jury of your own stuff because anybody could look at your work that you're putting out, like, oh, that's an A. Like it's very, almost like very like subjective. So if you
true.
feel good with it, then that's all that matters.
I
at the
agree
end
with
of the day.
that. I agree with that. I think the biggest challenge with just kind of that system would be from an entrepreneurship perspective would be like coming out of school with like
Yeah.
debt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
If
yeah.
you know if the goal is to go to school to make money and you're going into business for yourself to make money, was it advantageous to
go
put
into
yourself
debt.
in a hole? Yeah, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, in that manner, because you could have invested that in a million other ways into your
Totally,
business.
totally.
Not saying you specifically, but you know, in a grander sense.
I mean, I will be completely transparent that I was lucky enough to have parents that helped me and pretty much paid for my education.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Which was great because I
Absolutely.
mean I could be in student loan debt to this day. I mean it's like a ball and chain.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are in different situations that have that. So I'm very very grateful and just for those opportunities that I've had because I don't know I can't really speak to it because I don't have that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get you. I totally get you. For sure, dude, for sure. So let's change gears a little bit. What is Primal?
What is Primal? Primal is what's been around forever. You mentioned like how the industry changes. It's a kind of like common sense approach to fitness where you're doing more of like upright, restorative human movement.
Yeah.
So we're sitting down all day. Everybody says, sitting is killing our bodies. We are just totally, our posture is all twisted up. So like everything we do at Primal is like building good, solid, foundational fitness that you can do other things as a jump off pad to do other things with. So
Yeah.
nobody's like, no matter what fitness program you're doing, what I notice is like nobody's like talking about the basics. They're going very fancy. They're doing all this crazy stuff, but they can't even do like a squat. Like
Yeah.
the number one, like basic human movement 101. Like what does a squat look like? And they're doing jump squats and they're doing squats on a Bosu ball and they're doing, all this. It's just ridiculous. So I find that the stuff that's worked the best has been around forever. Even though there's more information coming out, the tried and true fundamentals of squatting and pushing and pulling and hinging and
Yes.
doing them correctly with good technique will put you to the end of the game. Like it will take you through the rest of your life. Like you can do
Absolutely.
that forever. If
Yeah.
you do it safely and you have mobility and you're flexible and all that stuff and you're generally strong, you will be in the shape you want, feel the way you want, and you'll just feel good in your body.
Yeah.
So like rather than getting from like the trends and the gimmicks and the fads and the latest and greatest and the next best thing, what's been around since the beginning of time, and that's just basic human movement.
Yeah,
And
so
that's what we do.
building like that foundational
Yeah,
strength.
nobody builds a foundation
Yeah, man, because I mean there are these basic human movement patterns
that we can't even do. Most people can't do.
No, a lot of people can't do it, and honestly, dude, a lot of it where it starts is we're all fucking wearing shoes all day, every day from the time we're kids. Like I don't know why we do this, but we say put your baby in shoes to help them walk.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do to help them walk. Like you're taking their foot's ability, you're taking away the ability of the foot to build strength and muscles that it needs.
Yeah, there's muscles in your foot, like ground stabilization. Like when I talk about squats, first of all, we train barefoot in the gym.
Have to.
And I talk about like gripping the ground with your feet to like really like almost like screw yourself in to pull yourself into a squat.
Right. Yep. Yeah, like creating like counter, like
Tension.
anti-rotation, tension through the ground. Yeah, dude, that's where it's at because like shoes are like a cast. Like you have it
Some
all
of these
day.
shoes these days too are like walking on like cinder block, like they're like clouds and pillows.
Constant elevation of the heel.
Where the
so
heel, where the sole is like one of these books. I mean, they can't see it, but like a 3-inch.
oh, they can. We got camera.
The sole is like, I mean, you're literally like walking on something like that.
All the time, dude. And I've for the past like year, I've just solely focused on like rebuilding my squat, and like it started with my hips, but then I realized like
From the ground up.
yeah, I have to go to my feet, right?
Yep,
so like
totally.
now I'm just totally working on like my ankle mobility and
Which
just,
nobody like people when they think about squats, like, oh, let me work on my hips, which is cool, but like literally start from the bottom and build yourself up.
you have to, man. And so just a couple of days ago, I had a buddy. He's working with young dude, left-handed pitcher, got drafted right out of high school to the league.
Wow.
So I think he just came back for rookie ball, so he's here until he's going off until spring ball.
Okay.
And he brought him in so we could do some mace stuff. He was doing some speed and agility, but like I was looking at his squat, dude. I'm like, he couldn't do the squat, so I put some plates underneath his heels.
Elevated heel.
Perfect squat.
Right.
I'm just like, see, dude, you're fucking tight here.
Yeah.
So like,
And that's what's interesting too. Like, he's a pitcher.
he's a fucking high level athlete.
That's not so, and he can't do a basic human movement of a squat. So like, yeah, he's not squatting in the game. You know, he's not like, but like, still, you should. I think every human should be able to do these basic movements that most even high level athletes can't do correctly.
Right. Yeah.
So like, you know, he needs to work on like shoulder, all that stuff, and shoulder strengthening and rotator cuff. But like, to me, if somebody can't do a squat, they're definitely not able to like use their legs and hips and like something's wrong there.
Right. And so I went to a couple workshops down on it, and Shane Hines taught them. And he uses this, he talks about like having this balance of like, it's like you want to try to, ideally, we would try to keep people like really balanced, right, to where they can perform, but they have mobility and all that. But for like these athletes, they really need to be like they just have to be for
outsider.
Like like they're really over here for their sport performance and whatnot. So it's like we can't necessarily get them here where we want them to, but we're trying to get them as close as we can, so that way they can still perform and do what they need to do, right? So that way they're better. So the highest level athletes are some of the most like unbalanced.
Yes, but because your body's a very good like compensator.
Oh yeah.
So it will figure out the way to do it. So
Always.
like sometimes for something like a high level athlete, if you do bring them too far to the middle, they won't perform with their sport.
Exactly. So it's like trying to find that balance for them, right? Because they've adapted. Because like you said, the body's always searching for homeostasis, so it'll find a way to adapt.
Yeah.
That's why I tell people like, you don't know how good you can feel until you just feel it, because your body's
all you've ever known.
Yeah, your body's found homeostasis, so you
Right.
think you feel fine, but you're smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and you're not sleeping well, and you're eating like shit. So you think you feel fine, but you don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just
that's a good point too. That like you don't know what it feels like to feel the energy and feel how your body feels when you are like healthy.
or the mental clarity that comes with it. That's I think that's the biggest thing, is just the mental like fog is lifted. But
See, when people say that, I don't even know what that means. You know, because I've always been like healthy and like health conscious. So like people talk about that. So it's like it works to the other end. Like I almost wish I could put on like a helmet or like some kind of like brain thing to feel like what it feels like if I wasn't somebody who's worked out their entire life or ate good food. Like holy, it would give me some
well, let me ask you this.
appreciation.
So what constitutes as eats good food? Because like, what's your diet
Everybody's
like?
different.
Yeah, well,
So
everybody's different, and then like
Yeah. So I'm very like vegetable heavy first. I believe that you should eat a lot of vegetables as your main source, like salads or spinach or carrots or whatever.
Absolutely.
Lean protein and then just healthy fat, like straight up. I don't follow keto. I just eat a vegetable at every meal, some type of lean protein, and then a healthy fat.
That's legit, dude.
That's
so
it.
yeah, I mean, I
don't count calories. I don't eat between. I've done some like fasting kind of stuff, but like I'm like 3 square meals a day, 2 snacks, as close to whole food as possible. Lean protein, chicken, fish, turkey, eggs, egg whites, and healthy fat, avocado, nuts. Again, the main source being I feel like people are not eating enough vegetables,
right,
which adds to like volume, vitamins, minerals, hormones, all that stuff. I truly believe that especially the American diet is so carb and protein heavy that it really is messing with us.
Really?
So I think that vegetables are a key thing, because it's not even like I've said before, it's not even what the client is eating, it's what they're not eating, and that's usually vegetables.
Yeah, dude.
So it's not they're eating like fast food, bad things, McDonald's, all that. It's not it's what they're not eating, and that's lean protein and vegetables.
Yeah, well, because they're not getting those micronutrients, right?
Correct.
You need those nutrient-dense foods. So
And just the volume, because I feel like you can eat. You could go to out to eat and eat 1,000 calories, easy, 1,200 calories. And when you're also eating like very like dense food, your calories are so high. Where if you eat like voluminous food, whatever, like you can just eat more.
Yeah.
Like we're just overeating. Obviously, I mean, like the only reason why somebody's fat is because they're eating too much calories, which is energy, and they're sitting on their ass. So how do we like still have people eat like a lot of food, you fill it with vegetables.
Yeah, yeah, and they're gonna get those nutrients, right? And some of that is like people's palates have just been.
Oh, they're super. What's the word? Like they're just on overdrive.
Yeah, I mean, they're it's just always seeking these highly palatable foods
Yeah.
that are very just like nutrient lacking. You know what I mean? It's so you don't eat like very many, and it doesn't sound like you grew up eating very many like processed carbohydrates, dude. Yeah, that's very good, dude. That's awesome.
My parents weren't like health freaks about it, but we always had good food in the house, like home cooked meals. We never went out to like fast food restaurants. So like to me, like again, like I'm a little like I got lucky in that sense where like I've never had to like fight like this whole like upbringing of like, well, my mom, made pasta and made me finish the whole meal. And like, you don't want to waste food because there are starving kids in Africa. Like, I didn't have that. So like, I just made sure that like, I don't know. I think that I got lucky in that sense.
Yeah, dude, that's good. That's so funny because I was the complete opposite, dude. So like, I grew up with I grew up in a town called Potosi, which isn't too far from here.
I've heard of it.
Probably like 1,500, 2,000 people there.
Okay.
And even further out than that is where my grandma lived, like on a dirt road, like on this farm.
Right.
So dude, like, I grew up just like eating like white bread and just like shit food and eat all your, clean your plate, eat it all.
Eat it all, right.
Dude, like, so I had to like battle against that shit. So that's good, dude. Like, yeah, because when you have a diet that consist of predominantly refined carbohydrates, processed foods, things out of boxes, not real whole foods, predominantly plant-based diet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like when you're eating shit like that, dude, that shit will fucking fog you out.
It'll fog you up, and then like you said, the palate thing is really interesting to me because to me at this point, like when I eat like an apple, it tastes like candy.
Super sweet.
It's like it's like my palate is just it's on point. Like it's I don't know what the word is, but I feel like
we have a sensitive palate, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then when I do eat the other stuff, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like the chemicals in my brain are like bing, 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 but like at the same time, it's almost like too much to me.
I can't even do like salad dressings because they're too sweet.
Yeah.
Like I just do like olive oil or avocado oil or something.
But that's like you're at like the spectrum that you want to get to, but like you have to for clients. What I've noticed is get them there.
Yeah.
Like,
how do you like to do that with clients? It's a challenge.
That's like the $1 million question. Yeah, I don't know because I feel like that's hard. One thing in my gym is I really try to focus on nutrition more so than fitness. Like even though I'm a trainer,
like
I
in the
want people
beginning
to work
or just
out
all the way
through.
Yeah.
I'm like, like I don't care how much you work out here. Like, it's not about effort. It's not about like what else you can do. It's about restriction, and that comes through food. What do you restrict on your plate? So for me, like nutrition has been so important to everything. Like I'm not just gonna kick your ass in the gym and be like, oh, you'll lose the weight this way. Like, you got to make sure you're putting the right food and the right things in your body to get the results that you want, to feel the way you want to feel, and to perform the way you want to perform. So the way I get somebody is just like baby steps. I use the term green face for every meal. So green being vegetables, not every vegetable is green, but like most are.
Eat the rainbow is what I like to say.
Yeah, and like Skittles did a great job of doing that. And then what was it? Oh, and face being a protein, because usually protein had a face at one time. Like chicken, fish. So I just say green face every meal. That means vegetables, protein every meal.
Yeah. So I've heard you mention a couple times lean proteins, chicken, fish.
Yeah.
Do you not do much beef, or what's your thoughts on fatty meats and stuff like that?
I do once in a while. I just don't process it that well. I feel like kind of heavy after. I don't do a lot of red meat.
Really?
Yeah. And what's funny about the whole fitness industry is like you can probably find somebody in your podcast that like swears by red meat, only eats red meat, and like doesn't eat any vegetables. And who knows? Like who's right here? I don't know. I just find that like for me, my healthy fat comes from like nuts, avocados, almond butter, things like that, or egg yolks.
Egg yolks?
Yeah.
100%.
For beef, like I don't know. I like it. I don't eat as much as I used to.
Yeah.
A lot of my stuff is just turkey, fish, or eggs.
Yeah. I'm always just curious. So I personally, I don't even eat meat every day.
Yeah.
I don't actually eat as much poultry as I used to. I've found that from a from a micronutrient standpoint, it's not as dense as like red meat would be, but it is from just a macro standpoint, from a protein standpoint, it's great. But yeah, I'm not against red meat. I feel like
I'm not against it.
Yeah, I feel like if
Yeah.
it's like grass-fed, grass-finished,
Dude, there's nothing
it's
better
been
than
shown
a
to be the most
burger.
nutrient-dense form of
Yeah.
protein. So
And a juicy
dude, I
burger
fucking love burgers, bro.
or like a really good steak. There's
Yeah.
nothing better.
yeah, I'm just curious how you eat. That's
Yeah,
all.
I don't eat it. I would say I'd probably eat red meat maybe once a week.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, and like I said, dude, I don't even eat meat every day.
Yeah.
I really got to a point to where I was damn near vegetarian, like
Really?
just mostly eating just like eggs. I eat
Okay.
a ton of eggs,
Yeah.
but not so much anymore. I use. Have you tried Butcher Box? Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it.
So I've gotten a couple orders. The meat tastes awesome. It
Really?
tastes great. But I don't think it's something I would use all the time.
How come?
Well, during the summer months, shipping, like it wasn't
You gotta
even.
coordinate.
Yeah,
'cause you
because
gotta pick it up.
they send it to you and they
Yeah.
drop it off at your house and it's packed and whatnot. But
Yeah,
like,
but you got to be home in like a couple hours.
dude, you got to be there. Yeah,
Yep.
because one time it was sitting outside of my door for probably like 4 or 5 hours. Nothing
Not
crazy
that
long.
yeah.
But it was still melted by the time I got. And this wasn't even the dead of summer.
Right.
So I think I'm gonna get a pretty big order like coming up here in December,
And then just freeze it?
Just freeze. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it'll just sit for a second. But it's hard to find good quality meat,
Mm-hmm.
dude. You know what I mean? Like organic or grass-fed,
At
grass-finished.
one point, this is probably years ago. I bought like a half a cow from a farm out in
That's a good
Missouri.
move. I'm gonna start hunting.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do it. I never did it growing
Yeah.
up. Fucking
Neither have I.
being in Missouri, there's
Yeah.
opportunity everywhere, but
Right.
I never did it. I'm gonna start bow hunting.
Yeah.
Listen to Rogan. He
Yeah.
like got me wanted to do it. So
That's
my
cool.
dad does it. My brother does it. My uncle does
Had
it.
they always done it, or they just recently picked it
You know,
up?
my dad didn't really start hunting until after I moved out of the house.
Okay.
So he's actually my stepdad.
Right.
That's who I call my dad, though. And I am 12 years older than my youngest brother.
So okay, you're basically like an only child then.
Yeah, so
'cause,
I have
like-
two younger brothers that I
Right.
grew up in the house with. One is about five years younger than me. The other is 12.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there's still a pretty big gap
There's
between
gaps,
all of
yeah.
us. So yeah, I was almost like an only child. I mean, like 6 years.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like super close to the one like growing
Right.
up. We were just in different phases of our lives.
Totally.
But yeah, no, like so like my youngest brother and my dad, like they hunt and shit like that. I'm like,
That's cool.
I just want that meat. It's like the healthiest meat you
Yeah,
can get,
I mean,
like wild game.
There's something about it very primal about going out and killing your own food and then like preparing it, and then there's something very fulfilling and just like probably tastes subconsciously it probably tastes better.
Right. I don't know. It's a lot of fucking work, I'm sure. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Like the ultimate goal is to like go out to like, I don't know, Colorado or one of
Mm-hmm.
the Dakotas or Montana or something, like go in the back country and go get like an elk or something.
Right.
Like that'd be fucking
And then
dope.
probably feed you for a whole year.
Dude, it would feed you for so long. It's like hundreds of pounds of meat.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't imagine. Well, dude, can they hunt in New York?
No,
Not like in the city, but like in the state?
In the city, yeah. Pigeons, maybe. Pigeons.
Yeah.
Actually, I was watching a documentary, Planet Earth. They said that the highest density of hawks and birds is actually in New York City
Really?
because they have more like perch points,
Oh.
and there's more like just like fish, I guess, and like a lot of these hawks eat actual pigeons, and there's so many pigeons in New York City. The highest concentration of hawks, which you never think of, is in New York City.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
But
Fascinating.
no, you can't hunt. Obviously, I think you can. I think you can hunt in upstate New York because I mean New York is huge. A lot of people when they talk about New York, they talk about New York City, but
Yeah.
there's beautiful Syracuse, Buffalo.
The state
Upstate
is
New
big,
York
yeah.
is beautiful, and nobody I knew. The first person I knew that hunted was I met in St. Louis. Nobody that I knew in New York City
Yeah, that was
was
the
like
thing.
going up on the weekends to upstate New York and hunting. It was not a thing. Also, guns were not a thing. Like
Yeah.
nobody in New York had a gun.
Guns everywhere here.
I mean, yeah, I remember going out to a club with one of my buddies when I first moved here. I met, and he had a gun underneath his seat. I'm like, dude, what are you doing with that? And he's like, what are you talking about? It was
Yeah.
just a whole. That was speaking of like your first question. That was a huge culture shock to me. Was the whole like it was just very much like, oh, I got a gun, I go hunting, different way of life.
Very different.
Different way of
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. I used to have a gun, and I got my CCW,
Mm-hmm.
my concealed carry, and I didn't even carry my gun.
Yeah.
I sold it.
Yeah.
I'm not too used to it, but anyway, so I took us on a tangent. So back to Primal.
Mm-hmm.
You were training you're training like a big box gym, Lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, so when was Primal born?
I got
Were you-
fired
you
from
got-
that.
oh, did you?
Yeah, that's why I started Primal.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, so I was at Lifetime, and I was starting to like brand myself because I just had a unique way of doing things with my clients that even at the time were different than the other trainers.
Did they not like you doing like your own? Because
That's
those big
no,
box gyms,
dude,
they all want you to do the same shit. Like everybody's putting people on Bosu balls, and everybody's
man.
following
Well,
the
'cause,
same
yeah,
style
the
of
reason,
training.
like my training was so basic, and like the way even with my approach towards food with my clients was so basic that like they didn't like that because like I was like you don't need to go to a dietitian, just eat real food. Fuck,
It's
like
pretty simple.
pretty simple. Like, but like no, you got to sell them more nutrition sessions. You got to sell them more supplements. I'm like,
they
dude,
don't even need
they don't need that shit. They just
Yeah.
got to fucking eat vegetables, eat lean protein, sweat every day, like I was so like pulling the covers off of everything and being like, yo, they don't have to do any of this stuff. And they didn't like that, number one. Number two, they didn't like me branding myself. They wanted things to do. They wanted it done their way. And I also started like blogging, and they started seeing that. And like they want to keep everybody
in
their box.
Yeah.
Like literally the big box. They want to keep everybody in the box.
Yeah.
The more people that are there drinking the Kool-Aid, doing what they want to do, doing how they want things to done, the happier everybody is. So I actually took I got a sponsorship deal from Phorm.
Yeah.
And once they saw that, they gave me the boot because it was a conflict of interest because Lifetime sold supplements. Phorm was a supplement company, so they wanted to be pushing Lifetime product, not Phorm product. And there was just a whole bunch of other stuff beyond that. But at the end of the day, that was the basic layer of like, okay, this kid is like doing his own stuff. He's calling his own training style, and it was like you said, it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, I think it's cool you're able to do all of that like under that like system.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how many like big box trainers actually take that initiative and do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like build that clientele and build that following.
It was the entrepreneurship, probably.
Yeah.
It was just that idea of like, hey, like I can probably do things my own way better and not, again, butting heads with my boss. Like I want to do things my way. And I just felt like I had something unique, and clients were really responding to it, and they saw better results.
Yeah.
I wasn't the top trainer at the gym, but my clients were very loyal.
Yeah.
Like, very loyal.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
Loyalty matters.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny you say that. I was just listening to one of the TNT podcasts with Sal.
Okay.
I just handpicked like a few of them to kind of like listen to. I'm just always trying to just like get different knowledge from here and there. And it was one on business.
Okay.
And that's what he was talking about, like just building loyalty with business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just you struck a chord.
It's probably one of the most important things. Like
it's so
when
important.
I got fired on I was thinking it was like a random Tuesday. I luckily met a guy who was a godsend down the road that owned a CrossFit gym, and I'm forever indebted to him because I was able to literally from Tuesday. I set up shop Wednesday down the block and trained all my clients the next day.
How many clients did you take with you?
I probably took all in probably like 10 to 12. There was a couple like older people that wouldn't go to a CrossFit gym. They're not going to do that. So I probably 5 probably stayed, 12 probably came with me. So I had a really good base to start with, and I was nervous because like here we were at like the Taj Mahal of training facilities.
Nice facility.
It's beautiful, and then we're going to some like dingy CrossFit gym down the road that's just an empty room with like some hard floor, and there's no air conditioning or heat. I was like, are they gonna come? But they all did, man. They all did. I got lucky.
Nice. I looked that place up. I came across you like through Phorm.
Okay, yeah.
And this was like back when you were operating like your old page. And so like I saw like where you're training at, and like I just looked them up on Google.
Yeah.
And so it's like in the bottom of the fucking
It was
complex,
in the bottom
like
of the
around the
complex.
back.
It was around the back. Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. So like
Yeah,
I
so-
had no sign. I was in the bottom basement behind the building, and I was in a CrossFit. People were like so confused. They're like, "Wait, you're in this other?" I'm like, "Yeah, just come. I'll explain it. We'll just come inside." So like it was different because like I was trying. It was a good test for me to try to see if Prymal could stand on its own 2 legs. And like I could still train, do my own thing. I could pay a flat. I basically subleased the gym from the owner, Trent. And I could pay a flat fee and just try it out. Like I was month to month. So I could just, if it didn't work, it was all good. So that was like, I did that for probably 2 years. And then we just got too busy. Like he got too busy. I started getting too busy. We were kind of like on top of each other. We were kind of like butting heads a little bit. And I was like, I'll just get my own space. And I got my own space probably last year.
Yeah, dude, that's entrepreneurship though,
Yeah.
right? I mean, just fucking making it happen.
And the whole back to your biggest, back to your other thing about having an open mind even though I was like at Lifetime doing my own training style, I still wanted to learn from other coaches. So I reached out to Trent on my own, even though he did a CrossFit thing 6 months prior and had a relationship with him. So like when I got fired, I called him up right away and I had that relationship already.
I think it's so important to like
I reached out, man.
Yeah, build those relationships.
I had relationships, yeah.
Make those connections and like understand that like, hey, like that may not be my style of training.
Yeah,
expertise.
but there's something.
That's cool,
They're
man.
Exactly. Like I didn't really agree with the Olympic lifting for like general population, but like there was something that CrossFit was doing that obviously was really, really like attracting people into their gym. So I was like, you know what? I can learn something. I wanted to learn how to do these movements. So I had that relationship. Thank God, because otherwise I would be at Gold's Gym then. If I got fired from Lifetime, I wasn't going to open my own gym after that. I mean, that was too much of a jump.
Yeah, that would have been a very daunting task.
Yeah.
In that moment,
like, okay, here I am fired. Next, like, I have to go find space, get equipment, sign a lease. Like, I mean, literally the next day, I was able to keep everything rolling.
Yeah. It's good you're able to recognize that you had somebody in your network that was able to help
actually,
you.
in my I wrote a little Prymal book training. I thank my best client to this day is Molly, who I got from a phone list randomly. Like
cold called?
Yeah, cold call. She's my best client still to this day. 4 years from a cold call.
That's dope.
I thanked her and I thanked Trent, who was the owner of the CrossFit gym, because if I didn't have him, it would have been game over. And then I think I thanked my mom. Even so, yeah.
It's always good to thank mom, dude.
Right.
It's always good. I think that's cool because there are. Well, actually, let me say something different. I'm not the biggest fan of like the CrossFit model.
Right.
One thing that I kind of can appreciate it for is that it has opened up people like the Gym Pop's minds to other forms of like
they put barbells
strength.
in people's hands, they did more of like, it can be like so simple and so like body weight focused. Like it was against the machines, which I really liked. Yeah.
I've kind of gravitated towards like my idea of like true strength is something like if I had to like put a word on it, like gymnastic strength. Like those guys are so fucking mobile. They're so strong.
They're
like
shredded out.
Dude,
yeah.
like my goal is like what I'm working towards are like my two things I've been working on.
Can you
like
do a planche?
What?
Can you do a planche like that? No.
No, I'm not that good at that.
So
like
hard.
I'm trying to work towards my handstand and like the splits.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but dude, they do it so effortlessly.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just like a true measure of fucking
I
strength,
agree.
like being able to control the body.
Yeah.
So that's probably at least been like one positive out of CrossFit. I think it's at least kind of shed some light on that gymnastic strength because you got those dudes, they're doing handstand push-ups, they're doing fucking handstand walks.
The problem with CrossFit for me is the Olympic movements. The big classes, like they're very intense and there are a lot of people.
Yes.
So like you're just getting kind of like lost in the mix and then you're trying to be like competitive with it too.
I mean, you're adding load to movements that people maybe shouldn't be adding load to, prematurely and different things. So I have definitely an issue with that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just want to talk about the gymnastic strength.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
such
No,
an
I
important
think
thing.
gymnastics. I think. Yeah, like a lot of those guys, like you said, like they have everything. Like if I was to look at buckets for general fitness, it would be like mobility, strength, and also like low body weight to strength ratio. Like they're really light, but they're really strong, which is important. Like I don't care if you deadlift 500 pounds if you weigh 350. Like that's not impressive to me.
Yeah.
Impressive to me is somebody who deadlifts 500 and weighs 150.
Right. Yeah. The more I've learned, I've just kind of come to the realization that like strength is the foundation because like
Strength is king, man.
Yeah. Like, are you familiar with Pavel Tsatsouline? Yeah. Strength. Strength first. So. Or strong first rather. So like strength is that foundation, and then like I've always kind of bucketed mobility separate, but the more I've learned is like mobility is
It's
strength.
how you get to strength.
Well, mobility is strength. It's like strength in our end ranges of motion.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's just a different branch of the same thing almost. But
no, strength is king. Like
it really is.
And the way you get to that is like learning the proper movements and loading them safely, and the way you get to that is by mobility, flexibility, and just like proper coaching. Like it's really that simple.
Patience.
It's really that simple.
Yeah.
Just get stronger at the basic movements of like squat, deadlift, push, pull. I even put in like carry, like Phorm's carry, and then I'll even put in crawl because it helps people like learn like cross patterning, and also it can really highlight a lot of imbalances.
Yeah.
Like core stabilization. Can they like keep their hip shifting? Do they have a hard time like maintaining their trunk stabilization? So like for me, I do the crawl into that whole. I say there's 7 movements: squat, hinge, push, pull, carry, crawl, and plank. They can do those things safely and like really good with good technique, and then you can load them, then they'll be in great shape, and they can do anything.
I can dig that. I can dig
anything.
that. I think I've so I've had the 7. So I've had what? So push, pull, squat,
pull,
hinge.
So wait, push, pull, squat, hinge,
lunge,
carry, crawl, plank.
Yeah. So I've always heard a little bit differently. So I've heard push, pull, squat, hinge. What was it? I had lunge.
Yeah.
And then there's carry.
Yeah.
But I had one more. What did I say? Push, pull, squat.
Could it be swing, maybe?
Hinge. Maybe it was lift.
Lift?
I don't know.
Rotation?
Yeah, that's what it was. It was rotation.
Yeah.
That's what it was, rotation. That was the other one. That's the one I've heard. But then I've heard like primal movement patterns, like basic human movement patterns. So you have like crawling.
Yep.
Rolling. What are some of the other ones? I don't know. But
squatting. A lot of kids just kind of hang out.
Yeah,
and squat.
squatting, rolling, crawling, like those type of things, like those quadruped movements
the reason why
on
I put
the ground.
Crawl in there, like I said,
I like it.
And then plank for me just adds to like core stable, which people don't know. Like they can't even like hold their body.
Yeah.
Like plank is good because like it teaches like to that like kind of like that band, like that shell of like keeping everything tight and rigid, which will help injury. I feel like with low back, which is like the biggest thing. Like if you can't like brace up your core, you're gonna get hurt.
It's super important. And so many people think that their core is just their abs, but I mean,
it's the whole wrap.
Yeah, you got everything around.
It's actually technically it's actually knees to nipples.
Yep.
This is your whole core.
All the way here, all the way around.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So many people just get that confused. But yeah, I think that's just such an important point. Like those basic human movement patterns are what we should be doing.
That's what you should be doing, and then adding strength on top of that. Like get those like laid out foundationally, like learn to do those, and then you can get stronger at them, and then you're good.
Yeah.
Like what else do you need besides that?
Yeah. You don't want to add load before. I feel like load is earned.
Dude, yeah, no way, man. Like the fact that the injury rate is so high, even in the fitness world, is like that's a big red flag for me, because a lot of people that are in their because we're a generation of fitness. So you have a lot of guys that are in their 30s with like broken shoulders and bad knees and like bad hips. Like, what do you think is going to happen at 40 and 50 years old if you keep doing this?
Right.
Like, we're so young, our bodies should not be breaking down at this age.
Right.
No way.
And what a lot of people don't understand is that like the changes that need to happen to the tissue that needs to be changed, it takes a long time. You know what I mean? That cartilage and that tendon, it takes. I can't remember. I was listening to a Tim Ferriss podcast with I can't remember which guy, but he was talking about like it takes like months and months for that cartilage to actually change, like 6 months to actually start getting like real significant changes in that type of tissue. So especially when you're healing, so like it's just patience. Like you gotta have patience.
And then there's people like that, that won't even go to the gym. Like it's funny how like the more you get down the rabbit hole of fitness, and so many people are just like. They're not even they're just like kind of looking over it. Like there's so many different things as you get down, like with like tissue. Like talk to most people about tissue. Like what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got to kind of fine tune who you're talking to or what you're saying when you talk to different people.
Yeah, I like this stuff, but like it is interesting, like how like general population. I would say 98% of the people won't even like go to a gym.
Yeah,
like we're talking about tissues and all that. It's just so interesting that like I'd say. People have gym memberships that use them twice a week, twice a month.
Well, and that's what the gyms count on, right? I mean, that's how they can sign up so many people. Yeah. So how do you like to deal with, because so many people, I'm sure they're like, Ryan, tell me what to do. Tell me what to eat. How do you like to deal with that?
I mean, I really, for the eating thing, I try to simplify. I just say the green face thing. I say vegetables. I say it's not what you're eating, it's what you're not eating. That's pretty simple. As far as like telling you what to do, I just say like as a trainer, I'm in a spot where I can just have them come in. I could just do the work for them with coach. That's really important. Like my job as a trainer is to teach you how to train and look at fitness so that you can, in theory, recreate it on your own. Yeah. That's the goal of a trainer. Like nothing's worse than seeing a client a year, 2 years down the road when they quit training for whatever reason and they gained it all back. I'm like, dude, like you spent so much time, energy, and money in this and you like literally didn't learn a damn thing. Yeah. So like I try to like take the thought out of it because nobody wants to think about it, but layer on, okay, like teaching them like why we're doing these things. And that's actually why we spell primal with a Y. Like first of all, it's getting to the client's why. Like, why are they here? What does fitness mean to you? Like the why. But then also like, why are we doing these exercises? And like making them think about it so that way they kind of can like ingrain it into their head. Sometimes even during the warm up, I'll be like, all right, you do the warm up. Like, what? You're going to tell me what to do. I'm like, you should know. You've been here for a year. Do the warm up.
Yeah.
So like, challenging them to think about fitness on their own, because that will lead to consistency, and then that will lead to a lifestyle.
Right. Yeah. Like
too
really
much
internalize it.
Yeah. Too many people rely on the coach as a crutch versus like using them to extract the knowledge to do it themselves.
Right. And I imagine some coaches want that, right?
Of course.
They want
There's no money in the cure.
Yeah, dude. What are you talking about? I need you to pay me
Yeah,
forever,
there's
right?
no money in the cure.
But realistically, as coaches, like what we want to do is like teach them the skills so that way they can go on and fucking do it on their own, right?
And then go on and teach other people. Because like if you look at like the population of the world, like most people are not active, healthy individuals. So like if I could teach a client so much so that they can teach another person, that's like the ultimate, right? Like I try to teach my clients in the gym so much so that if a new person comes in and I have 6 people there, they can actually coach them in the movement just as much as I could.
Yeah.
So I can't be everywhere. So I'm like teaching this one guy a new and then my other clients helping us. That's cool to me.
It's super
That means
cool.
I did my job like to the best of my ability.
100%. I coach kids jiu-jitsu as well.
Okay.
And so I do that on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. And we'll have new kids come in. And, man, it can be challenging to always teach the same thing over and over. So it's really cool when we have a new kid and, like, one of the other kids will, like, one of the higher kids who've been there for a little bit longer, like the higher belts, they'll take those kids, they'll take them to the side, and they'll show them some of these new moves or, like, the warm-ups that we're doing. So it's just like, dude.
It makes your job easier. And then also, like, it
empowers them.
It's also something along the lines of, like, if you can teach something, you really know it.
100%, yeah. And teaching kids.
That's hard.
Dude, that was a...
Dude, I don't know. That's like herding cats, man. That's hard.
Yeah. Well, you have to, like, really verbalize things in the most, like, simple, understood way because they don't necessarily have the same understanding of their body mechanics. You know what I mean? So it's like...
It probably helps you be a better coach.
It really has helped me a lot. Yeah, it's been quite the experience. I've been doing it for almost 2 years now.
Okay.
Helping with these kids, and it has been.
There's some quote that like if you can't explain it to a 6th grader, you don't know it.
Something like that. I think Einstein said something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. So many quotes. I'm a big. I fucking throw out quotes all the time.
Yeah.
So you said you put the why in there. Did you read that book? Start with your why.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of the inspiration. The inspiration for Primal came a little bit from that, but also because I felt like Primal with an I was so like kind of like boring and cliche, and we thought that we could spell it a little different. So we started writing out different ways to spell it, and then we wrote Primal with a Y, and I was like, bingo, like why, start with why, and like the whole thing is like, why are you here? What does it mean to you? And that if you have that strong why, like really most people don't even know why they're even exercising.
No.
If you get that, then you can actually emotionally tie them to the gym, and then they're gonna like hopefully kind of get it and show up on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I think that's important. So we were talking about like my brand with imposed will. So it's imposed will, and I did I will. So I period will. I feel like just like that simple mantra, I will fill in the blank. You can do whatever the fuck that you want to do.
Right.
So I use the tagline, or I'm kind of playing with it. So mindset, movement, performance. And the breakdown of that is I feel like as coaches, oftentimes we kind of have to train the mind first, just simply because if you're a client or whoever, they can come in there, they can do whatever work that they want to do. But like you said, like if they don't really internalize it, like if they don't have the right mindset, like they're going to fall off.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter. It's all for naught. So like you train the mind first, and then we can start with movement, right? Building those basic patterns, and then performance. And performance can be anything. It can be the grandmother who wants to fucking play with their kids or grandkids, or it can be like the college or like the high school kid who's trying to make it into college and play football or basketball.
It's individual.
You know what I mean? It can be anything. It's such a wide spectrum. So. I just feel like the mind is really like the start of it all.
It really is. This is fitness is a mind game because everybody knows what they need to do. But so many people don't do it. So like it's gonna start between your ears. Like that has to get on point.
How do you like to address that with your clients? I mean, because there's such a wide array of people that walk through your doors.
I probably don't do a good job enough of that based on like because we're doing like small like I think when I did personal training, private training, I was able to really like dig deep with each individual client and like get to know them on a different level. Now that we're doing more like smaller group, like you're kind of like in the group, you don't really get to like dig deep on the client. So that I should probably, now that you mentioned that, I probably should do better on that. I try to just do it with like a very direct approach, like you have to be patient. It's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
Give them little pep talks here and there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I now that you mentioned it, now I'm thinking about it, I probably don't do a good job of really like addressing that, even though that is probably the most important part. Yeah. So thank you.
Hey, no worries, dude. It's just, it's all a process, man. You know what I mean? Like,
I think I've focused too much on the training more so. Like my clients show up, they're consistent, but like I think that they would, like I would actually be able to get newer clients or like retain the ones that have fallen off from like really sitting down with them, being like, "Why are you here? Like, let's focus on like where your head's at."
Yeah.
And then that way they can like be better in the gym.
Well, it's been really so. I've always been about the mind, and like I said, like I mean that's kind of been the basis of my brand. And then I just did this 4-week like online coaching with Leo Savage for Steel Mace Flow, and dude, the first week he's like, we're not even gonna touch the mace. Like it's all like we're gonna touch the mind. And I think he kind of got that from he did like this program called the Strong Coach with Mike Bledsoe.
Okay.
Either way, I think he kind of got that from that program. So it was just interesting to see a coach actually do that. I feel like a lot of times as the fitness industry, we're like,
get right into it.
Yeah,
let's go.
It's like, this is what you're here for.
Yep.
Let's jump into it. But he was just like, hey man, like, he's like, you joined my program. Like you're trusting me as your coach.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do. And like, this is what we're going to do. So like, he took some time to like have us do like some self-reflection. And one of the things that he had us do, which I think is a good practice, I've kind of already done it on my own, but he was just like, write out your perfect day, which is just kind of like, you can extrapolate that to like your long-term goals, right? If you just figure out like, if time and money, isn't an object or whatever,
what would it look like?
What the fuck would your day be like? You know what I mean? So I just thought that was pretty cool to see him incorporate that into his
something different.
Yeah, so I've just kind of been marinating on that since throughout this month. And one of the group coaching things that he did, he put together a PowerPoint, and one of it was like eliminating. Fuck, dude, I can't remember the exact term he used, but basically just like not being confident, just like eliminating just like negative words and shit like that, and just like just very like self-doubting talk. You know what I mean? Self-doubt. Just eliminate that fucking talk out of your vocabulary.
Yeah.
So it was just pretty cool to kind of go through that experience and see how another coach does it. I'm always studying people and like how do they handle questions and clients and what do they do. So I was just kind of curious to get your thoughts on that, dude.
That's cool. Like, I mean, like I said, like I think that is the most important part. That's probably where I've fallen short. Just as my business is like my training has like transitioned into more of like, training. Like I don't really focus on like the individual.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's all a journey.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, we are just over an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time flies.
It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, time flies, right?
I know, right? Dude, I'm fucking obsessed with time. I feel like I've always been like, it's like the most important thing that we have. Like, like it's like this it's this man-made concept. Like it doesn't really exist, but it's almost the most important thing because it's like
it is because like you said you're gonna be here at 12, so like I knew, like, you know what I mean? Like there is something, like there has to be constructs of time, otherwise the world would just be chaotic and crazy. Like you wouldn't know what like anything. Yeah,
it's just this measurement that we use. Although so this health coach that I follow on Instagram, we've kind of connected. He posed this question, what's the most important thing? And I actually responded time, and a lot of people did. And then he gave me back a different response, which later, now that I listened to it, I think he may have got from a podcast, because I listened to a podcast with Kyle Kingsbury. Kyle Kingsbury, the Total Human Optimization Hour. It used to be the On It podcast.
Okay.
He had a guy on there. Long story short, he said that the like our greatest currency is our like our mental energy, because we all have the same fucking time,
Right.
and you can have all day, but if you don't have the mental energy to get done what you
Time
need to
doesn't
do,
matter.
time doesn't fucking matter. And I was
Yeah.
like, man, that's a good point. So he took it into like, if you're eating like shit, because the food that we eat directly affects how we interact with this world. So if you don't have the mental energy to do anything, what does it matter?
Yeah, what does it matter how much time you have? You can have all the
Yeah.
time in the world. If you can't even think straight, like,
Yeah, so I heard it from him first, but then I caught it on that podcast. I
Yeah.
put two and two together. I could just be making that up. Maybe he
Yeah.
didn't. Either way,
that's interesting.
it was an interesting perspective, I thought.
okay,
So,
fair enough. You
Um,
ever read, you ever hear of like Seneca? You know who Seneca is?
I know that name. Is that an
Seneca's-
ancient philosopher?
Yeah. He is a Stoic, and he talks a lot about time and how like most people waste time when it is like the biggest asset we've ever had. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's such a big part of our life.
Yes.
You know, you can get so much done, and people think life is so short, but really life is long.
So
when
long,
when
dude.
when you utilize your time correctly.
Yeah, dude, it's so long, and I think people like we skew it all the time. Like we talk about like the old days, like well, people only lived till like 30 on average. Well, that's
right.
because so many fucking babies died.
Right,
You know what I mean? So
right.
that skews the numbers because if you made it past adolescence, then you normally lived to old age.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just we just do weird things like that. Sweet man.
Cool.
So, how can people get a hold of you if they want to say hi,
Yeah,
ask questions, come train
sure.
with you out at Primal, dude?
Yeah,
What's
I'd love
the
that.
rundown?
So on Instagram, you can do Primal Gym, and that's PRYMAL Gym. You can send me an email. My first name Ryan at bprimal, B as in boy, E as in Edward, Primal with a Y again, or on Facebook Ryan Hansen. It should pop up.
Awesome. And I'll put all of these links in the
Yeah.
show notes so people can get a hold of you, dude.
Thanks, bro.
So,
Yeah,
all right,
this
brother.
was good.
Appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks
all
for
right,
having
everybody.
me.
Until next time.
All right.